In this lesson, you will learn more on the main method and the program arguments. In Java, every method has a unique signature, and that is how it is identified during execution. The main method signature is public static void main, and then it takes an argument which is a string array. The full combination of all these keywords make up the signature. However, note that the public and static can be interchanged, and you could also write that as static public void main and then in the parentheses string array args. That's also fine, but both of them mean the same signature. However, public and static are access modifiers. We'll learn about that later. Void means that this method is not returning anything, and we'll understand what is the meaning of returning also going forward. And then this method takes an argument which is a string array. Although you will learn a whole lot on the data types going forward, here is some introduction. A string is a data type which can be assigned text value. So you see an example here, string favorite equal to banana. String is the data type here, favorite is the variable name that you gave, banana is the value that is stored in the variable name favorite. And again observe that the banana is in between double quotes. An array is a collection of one type of data. String array is a collection of strings. And in this example, you see that we have declared fruits as a string array. And notice the notation for a string array, it is string and a pair of open and close square brackets. And then the value is nothing but three separate strings. The first string is apple, the second string is banana, and the third string is grapes. Each of the individual strings are enclosed between quotes. And then the entire collection is enclosed within a pair of curly braces. To access the individual elements of a collection, we use the index numbers. Index number starts from 0. So the 0th index number contains apple. The index number 1 contains banana. And the index number 2 contains grapes. With this background, now let's get back to our little program. When you run your program using the Java executable, the JRE searches for the main method signature. The moment it finds one, it starts executing the program from the main method by executing the statements inside the main method one by one. And since it can also receive string array, if a string array is passed on from the command line, that is also passed into the main method. The way you pass on the program arguments is simply concatenating the different strings immediately after your program name as it's shown here. So in this program, I'm sending the string Jayshree as one of the program arguments into the main method of my little program. The program arguments are then passed on to the main method from the JRE, and inside the main method, you can use the index numbers to access the individual elements of your string array. Notice in this example, only one string was passed from the program argument, and hence only the 0th index element is valid. Let's run this program from the last lamp. How do we do that? Java C. It's compiling now, then Java. So we have the welcome to programming printed out here. Now I want to send some program arguments. So how do I do that? My little program, and I'm going to send my name. Notice that even though this is a string, I'm not really enclosing that with the double quotes. Double quotes are only meant to be used inside your Java program. But from the command line, when you're sending the strings from the command line, you don't need to enclose the double quotes for the string. Anything that you pass from the command line is considered a string. Even if you pass a number, it is considered as a string only. So you don't need to put the double quotes for this. Now if I hit enter, it's really not printing anything here because we did not use that argument which is sent. The argument is sent from here and it is received here in the main method, but we didn't really use that. So let's go ahead and use that. So how do I use that? I'm going to concatenate the existing welcome message with the name that is received from the program argument. So since it's the first string that we are going to be printing out, I'm using the 0th index number. So save it, go ahead and compile that. Up arrows will give you back all the previous commands that you used. And now if I run Java, what do you see here? Welcome to programming, Jayashree. But do you see a problem here? It's smudged. Programming and Java, there is no space in between. So how do I put the space? Just put a space after this G, and of course ensure that you are within this double quotes, because this whole thing is a string. This whole thing is one string, and to which one more string is attached. So this plus sign that you see is attaching two strings. It is having one string here which is hard-coded, and one more string that it received from the program argument that is sent from here is attached to the message, and together both are printed on the command line. Now if you want to send the last name, how do I do that? Just attach the class name with a space. One more space and then one more string. Now the program argument, there are two arguments being sent from the command line. And to use that here, what would you do? Again, concatenate. But of course here also put an extra space, so that otherwise it's going to be smudged. Then use the index number 1 to get the second string. So once that is done, go ahead and first of all compile, because that's the first step we have to do, is compile. Because without compiling, if you run, your program will not have the changes that have taken place in the program. So now after that, you run this by sending the two arguments. There you go. Welcome to programming, Jayashree Ravi. Full name. So it's taking the 0th index, which is the first string, and then the first index is the second string. It starts from 0. That's the only tricky part here. So the 0th is the first program argument, and 1 is the second program argument. And now supposing you make a mistake of not sending the two program arguments and you just invoke the method without that, what happens? It throws an exception. So it's having an array index out of bounds exception 0. So what's happening is, and also it gives you the line number. Line number is 4. You see this in the second line, you see that it's line number 4 is where the exception is thrown. So if you come down here, this is line number 4, and it's giving some clues here. Array index out of bounds 0. So if you look at this, this is the array and the 0th position. So when it's trying to find the string at the 0th position, it can't find any. And that is why it is throwing a array index out of bounds exception. And because it threw an exception right here, it didn't even go checking this, because obviously that also is going to blow up. That also will throw an exception. But since an exception got thrown right here, it did not even proceed further to execute any of the expressions after the exceptional condition. And this is true for statements also, like supposing if there were more statements after this statement, those statements will not be executed because an exception got thrown, and the program gets terminated with the exception stack trace printed on the console.